Hey Rob, so what's your story? I hear it all the time. And my story, probably like most people's story, is quite complex, and we could spend a good deal of time talking about where I've come from, how it moulded me, how I ended up where I am right now doing what I do. But if I'm going to summarize things for you, we've got to rewind probably back to the time when I was in the music business. And, you know, firstly, what happened was I had a deal with CBS New York with a band called Lionheart. And it really looked like we'd cracked it. I can't remember how many copies, but we did a lot of copies, essentially around Atlanta, Georgia, in the first 10 days. And our publisher stroke record company, and that's a story for another time, essentially was making noises like, oh God, you know, you're going to be the next big thing, etc., etc. I was very young, very malleable, very impressionable, and I really, you know, it's that classic case of young kid comes good or thinks he's come good and is already planning a trip to go buy his first Bentley. And boy oh boy, did I come down to earth with a bump, which was a good thing, by the way, in hindsight. But we roll on from that. We'd signed a deal which was effectively joint and several, which is not important right now, other than it essentially means that if one person from the 4 people in the band make good, then they'll end up having to pay the debts off for the record deal for everybody. It was a situation that at that time, with my level of self-image, which wasn't great, I could see no way out. And eventually, long story short, it ended up in a kind of enforced bankruptcy at around age 26, 27. We wind forward from there. I kind of did a couple of other things and eventually ended up selling motor cars just to make ends up meet, you know, just to be able to look after the family and all that sort of stuff. And then I got an offer to join another band, which was a really well-known band, and tour the world. And I discussed it with my wife, and we kind of figured, hey, you know what, I can always go back to selling motor cars, but I might not get this chance again. And the money was pretty good, providing we were doing the gigs. So off we trot, or off I trot. And the weird thing is, I started with a US tour. I then started touring around Europe. Everything was going really great. We did some festivals where the crowds were really big, and you know, it really felt great for a while. But here's the really weird thing. That was the first time I had to go on antidepressants. And here's why. My self-esteem, my self-image was so low that even in what was one of my greatest moments up to that point, I had this innate belief that somehow, somewhere, life was going to snatch it away. And in some kind of attempt to teach me a lesson I needed to learn. I was just waiting for disaster to come around the corner and smack me square in the face. It was awful. So essentially what it was doing was stealing from me any possibility I might have had of actually enjoying the moment, enjoying what I was achieving. Horrible place to be in. And then it was compounded because if we fast forward a few years, I always remember this, I'll never forget it. I was in a hotel room in St Kilda, Melbourne, on an Australian tour, and I got a phone call in my hotel room from my wife. And she'd had some cancerous cells show up. And thankfully, she's still with me today, and everything was okay in the end. But it was fairly aggressive. and she was understandably worried. And I couldn't be there to put my arm around her and comfort her. I couldn't be there for her. I was there spiritually, but I couldn't put my arms around her and hold her. And that was a tough one to take. And then my young son, who was really young, Tyler, who's now married and works for me in the business, he came on the phone and said, and he was crying, by the way, he was really crying, sobbing, and he said, "Daddy, why don't you live with us anymore?" He had no idea that Daddy was actually out there trying to create a life for the family so that we could all live better than we had. And it was in that moment, I don't know if you resonate with this, but for most of us, there is a single point in time that we can all remember where something inside us changed. And it was in that very second that my whole world changed, and I came to the realization that music wasn't my first love. My family was my first love, and I had to do whatever it took to be with them as much as possible. I had to get out. But here's the thing, I knew on a logical level, and there is a place for logic, even though I bang on about not trusting your logic too much. On a logical level, I knew I couldn't afford to do it. Bills need to be paid, right? So I knew I had to get out, but I didn't know how. Now here's the thing, and there's an important lesson to be had out of this, something I had to learn, and something that might be of value to you if you need to learn it right this moment. If you're perhaps on the precipice of making a leap in life, taking a change of direction, and you're lacking the courage, there's going to be value in this. Almost 2 years later, I was still in the music business, still in that band. And you know what? To my shame, I hadn't moved forward not one iota to a position where I could actually leave and be with my family and sustain our lifestyle in any way, shape or form. So even though I knew I had to make a move, I hadn't done anything about it. And again, that boils down to my lack of self-image, my poor self-image, and the fact that somewhere on an inner level, I didn't believe I was capable of it. I didn't believe I could change it. But then we get to a point where enough's enough. If you've ever come up against, or if you have ever heard the saying, burn the boats or burn the bridges, there is tremendous power in that. Here's what happened. Eventually, I just left. I had no idea how I was going to make ends meet. I just couldn't take it anymore. It was literally, I was brokenhearted. I wanted to be with my family, and it was more important to me than anything else. And here's another thing you may have heard of, and it's tremendously powerful. If you have a big enough why, the how will show up, not the other way around. And I suddenly had a massive why. I got to a point where I was prepared to do whatever it took to get away from the music industry and create a life for us where I could be with my family all the time. So I left with no clue of what I was going to do. And I'd been studying, by the way, personal development for a very, very long time. And so I started to apply this stuff. I started a small cleaning business where I lived. Quickly realised there wasn't enough business, so I bought a 12-foot caravan, towed it up to London every week, and for 6 months I literally worked my balls off, if you pardon the expression. But here's the thing. In 6 months, I had not only replaced the income from the music business, I had doubled it. And God knows how. But I even moved us into a bigger, better house. All in 6 months. So what do I put that down to? Literally burning the boats, burning the bridges, whichever you prefer. Literally getting to a place where you say, I'm prepared to fail. I'm prepared to lose it all in the pursuit of what I want to do and what I want in life. I am not prepared to put up with less than I can be, do and have from this moment on. I want to live life on my terms and I'll do whatever it takes. You see, up until then I'd always been regarded myself as Mr. Safety Net. I'd always prepare a way out if it didn't work. Well, here's the thing. I've learned since then, what you're actually doing is you're preparing for failure from the get-go. How crazy is that? So what shows up? Well, I don't need to tell you, you know what shows up. So essentially, it was the first time in my life that I'd ever got to a point where I thought, there is no failure here. I will not accept anything other than getting this to work. And sure enough, it did. And part of that as well was a thing that I call neural reimaging. Over a period of time, what I did was I built my self-image. I magnified my successes. I fed them into my subconscious. I recreated my own belief system so that it would support a better future for myself and my family. Since then, I've created many successful businesses, 6, 7 figure, all the rest. Great, that's impressive. I've had just as many failures, by the way. But here's the thing. Failure is an interesting word, right? Failure doesn't necessarily mean that something's dead in the water and it's not going anywhere. It just means you figured out another way it didn't work, which kind of moves you one step closer to the way that will, doesn't it? Ask Thomas Edison. Well, you could if he was alive, but that's exactly the way he thought about things when he was trying to create the electric light bulb. And if it wasn't for him pursuing that and adopting that philosophy, we probably still wouldn't have electric light today. So that's exactly what I did. And over time, the successes compound to a point where success, winning in life, becomes your default setting, your habitual pattern. Where when you go into things, you expect to come out the winner, rather than kind of expecting the opposite. And that's tremendously powerful. And once you get to that point, you build up momentum in life. Life becomes easier. You go with the flow. And it just becomes so much more fun. And that's what I mean when I tell people you literally can be, do, have anything in life. The tough part is the beginning. It's finding the courage to set out on the path to what it is you want. And even if you don't know how it's going to show up, if you want it enough, have faith that the way will appear. But when it does, have the courage to suspend any disbelief you might be holding on to and follow your heart. Go! Trust your gut. Your gut has not evolved to a place where it confuses everything with logic. Trust your gut. That's your connection with your higher self, with the God force, whatever label you want to attach to you. It's your connection to a higher level of consciousness than you have access to on the normal physical plane. It's where the solution to all of the man-made problems that you're dealing with today are found. That's a conversation for another time. But suffice to say, neural reimaging is where you change the internal picture of who you are and what you're capable of doing. It's where you reprogram yourself so that your default setting supports everything you want to be, do and have in life, versus being the saboteur and slipping you up every chance it gets. I'm here to tell you that when I made those discoveries, it changed my life, and I went on to create many successful businesses. As I said, I had many that didn't make the grade. But for every business that didn't work out, I took a very valuable lesson that helped me to create something better in the future, made me stronger. So I didn't treat it as failure. I didn't take it on board like I would have done years ago as a reflection of me not being good enough. No, I just realized that in actual fact what this was doing, this perceived failure, was actually making me a stronger, better person. It was actually helping me to align perfectly with who I really am and what I really, really want from life. And if you can adopt that attitude over a period of time, your self-image will rise to a level where you'll become an unstoppable force in life and business. Don't believe me? Well, you don't have to take my word for it. Just try it. You'll see for yourself. Suspend your disbelief if you have any. Try it for 10 days. Try it for a month. I guarantee at the very least, you'll have a sense of well-being and happiness, joy for life that you've perhaps not felt for a very long time. And I'm sure you'd agree with me, that's a pretty good place to start, right? Anyway, to come to the present day, here I am making a video for you. All I can say, excuse the moment, I was just thinking about it before I said the next thing. It's just kind of tuning into how I feel about it right now. And I'm as content as I've ever been in life. Why? Because the way I have my life today is maybe not the way you'd like your life to be, but it's exactly the way I want my life to be. It's everything I want it to be, have in life. I've got it. And what really, really juices me more than anything these days is I get to show other people how to do the very same thing. Many, many times over the last 30 or so years, I've taught the same principles and strategies to clients. And I've seen remarkable results show up for them too. All it takes for this stuff to work is for you to have the will to adopt it, is for you to have a big enough why for it to work. And it works. You can literally be, do and have anything in life that you want for yourself. But it all starts with you starting to believe that and being willing to do whatever it takes. The very best investment that you'll ever make is the one you make in yourself, whether that be financial investment, time investment. You're the very best investment you could ever make. If you've never invested in yourself, then start now. You're all you've got. And you deserve it. All right, I'm going to wrap up. But what I will say is, if you're curious and you want to know more about this neural reimaging stuff I've been talking about, then I'm going to throw you a link underneath this video where you can go and check out some free training. And I'm sure you'll get great value from that too. Go take the training. Like I say, it's free. And come back and tell me what you think. Ask me any questions you might have. I'm here to serve. I love this stuff and I love to help people become better versions of themselves and create a life for themselves where they're living it on their own terms. Come back, hit me up. Give me your thoughts, give me your questions. I'm here to serve, as I say. And I'd love to know your thoughts on the training. I guess that's it. My phone's actually running out of battery now, so I'd better say goodbye. But I've really enjoyed making this video. I hope some of the things I've mentioned have resonated with you. I hope it inspires you to go on to great things in your life. I know you're capable of them. You need to get to a place where you realise you're capable of them. But not least of all, I hope it inspires you to go watch the training, the free training that I've offered you, because it may well empower you to take the first necessary steps on the path to be, do and have everything that you want from life. So that's it. I'm gone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Bye bye.